Hello there, I'm Marcus Conyers, and it's my great privilege to welcome you here today to the fabulous Orlando Science Center, where we will be studying special systems for helping students reach high levels of academic achievement. Beside me, we see a brain, which is really the star of the show. And behind me, we see the wonderful matrix of dendrites and axons that can work together in a symphony when students are learning at peak levels. So now, let's get on with the program. We will now approach 10 key pathways for increasing student achievement by understanding how the body-brain system truly learns. And the first is the fact that the brain has around 100 billion neurons. Think about that, 100 billion neurons. Every student in your classroom arrives in your classroom equipped with this complement of 100 billion neurons. But what makes the students successful and smart is the connections that they make between those neurons. Key process to understand here is that everything that you do as a teacher that really gets your students to think and learn literally wires in you learning into the brain. And let's start off by looking at a couple of metaphors, and please hold your hand up like this. This will help you really begin to get engaged physically at your end of the screen. And here we have a pretty good illustration of a neuron. Here we have the middle of the cell here, which is the neuron. As you wiggle your fingers now, what you have are dendrites. So neuron, dendrites, and your arm here will then represent an axon. Now what helps your students create actual learning in their brains is when their dendrites over here are connected by another axon. So when dendrites and axons connect, this is when learning truly happens in the brain. Wonderful research from the National Research Council now confirms that learning literally changes the physical structure of the brain. So when we consider this, the students arrive in the classroom with 100 billion neurons, able to make almost infinite connections through their dendrites to axon, and what you do as a teacher that wires in this new learning makes you, in our opinion, an applied neuroscientist. So the next time somebody asks you, what is your career, you can say that you are an applied neuroscientist. So what do we do with this information that the brain has 100 billion neurons? Here's some key things to remember. Firstly, throughout time, we have usually really underestimated the power of students' brains to grow with the correct stimulation. It used to be considered that some students from poverty or from minority backgrounds could not learn as well as other students. We now know that this is biologically untrue. And research suggests that when we give all students the sorts of high-powered and effective instruction, they begin to learn at very high levels of academic achievement. Second consideration here is to really have a range of different instructional strategies in your classroom. Because it strikes us that if you have a wider range, you're more likely to do those things that really help the students make their connections in the classroom that creates meaning and learning. So point number one, the brain has 100 billion neurons. Now let's reflect on the fact that the brain does have 100 billion neurons. What does that say about the potential of all students to learn in the classroom, given the right forms of instruction? Consider that for a moment.